The preeminence of Messiah. He, Messiah, is the image of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him, and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist. Paul declares that Yeshua has brought peace to the entire universe, whether things on earth or things in heaven. Before arriving at this statement, the apostle tells us who Yeshua really is, not a great teacher, nor a philosopher, nor a prophet, nor a preacher, nor a messenger of good news. Yeshua Messiah is the image of Elohim, the firstborn, the head of the church, the beginning, the reconciler, the image of Elohim. The Son is the image of the invisible Elohim. An image can be a copy of reality, a photograph, a hologram, a statue, or even something fictional, a drawing, but the biblical concept of image goes beyond that. Elohim created Adam and Eve in his image, and Adam fathered a son in his own image. These are not copies of reality, imitations, or figments of their imagination. They are physical, psychological, and social similarities. Paul says that the ceremonial law was a shadow, not the very image of the things, implying that image is reality. The question is, was Yeshua similar to Elohim or equal to Elohim? In addition to repeatedly attributing to himself the divine name I am, Yeshua explicitly said, I and the Father are one. He who has seen me has seen the Father. The firstborn. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Firstborn means the first begotten, hence some teach that Yeshua was the first being created by Elohim. But as with the term image, the word firstborn has a broader biblical meaning. Isaac was the firstborn instead of Ismael. Jacob was the firstborn instead of Esau. Joseph was the firstborn instead of Reuben. David was the firstborn instead of Eliab. They were all firstborn because they held the preeminent position over their brothers, not because they were born first. Paul refers to this preeminence in Colossians. To avoid any doubt about its nature, he attributes two divine qualities to he, the creation of all that exists, and its sustenance. The head of the church, and he is the head of the body, the church. In some languages, such as Catalan or English, the word head is also translated as chief or principal, because that is the metaphorical meaning of head. This is also the case in Hebrew. For example, appoint for themselves one head should be translated as they will appoint one leader. This is also the sense in which Paul uses this word when he applies to Messiah. But Paul also adds a metaphorical meaning to the body. If Messiah is the head, we the church are the body. From this idea, it follows that we are all in needed. Each one has his or her own work. We cannot despise anyone. There are no inferior believers. We care for one another. The beginning. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that in everything he might have the supremacy. The word translated as beginning is arche, a Greek word that means beginning, origin, first cause, or principle, but also means ruler, power, authority, or principality, depending largely on the context. We can say that this word applied to Messiah can have all these meanings. Yeshua is the origin of everything, the image of God, of Elohim, the reason why everything was created, the firstborn of creation, the supreme ruler, the head. All this gives him preeminence. Paul inserts the title, the firstborn from among the dead. Here, although Yeshua was not the first to be resurrected, but Moses, His victory over death also implies his victory over sin and his power to recreate us in his image. The reconciler, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. What Yeshua did resulted in him taking first place in everything. According to Paul, Messiah is worthy of all these titles, for Elohim was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him. In other words, Yeshua was fully Elohim and fully human. We have seen his glory, full of grace and truth. By dying on the cross and rising again, Yeshua fulfilled the necessary requirements to reconcile humanity with Elohim. We can understand that he has reconciled to Elohim the things on earth, but how has he reconciled to himself those that are in heaven? The entire universe has been able to clearly see that the nature of evil, as the character of Elohim, is vindicated both in heaven and on earth. Yeshua was the majesty of heaven, the beloved commander of the angels, who delighted to do his pleasure. He was one with Elohim in the bosom of the Father, yet he thought it not a thing to be desired to be equal with Elohim, while man was lost in sin and misery. He stepped down from his throne. He left his crown and royal scepter and clothed his divinity with humanity. He humbled himself even to the death of the cross, that men might be exalted to a seat with him upon the throne, his throne. In love, he comes to reveal the Father, to reconcile men to Elohim.